Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is your girl GOLDYNAPS, and I have never been more excited to put out a video than I am to put out this video because I did these knotless box braids myself. Like, it was my first time ever trying to do them and they came out so amazing. Like, this is the most professional looking hairstyle that I've ever done on myself. And I know like knotless box braids seem super daunting, and I'm gonna try my best to explain the technique to you guys. And I know watching tutorials on YouTube, especially for protective styles, can be so confusing. I'm hoping that this video is helpful for you guys and that you guys can go out and do it for yourselves. So I'm gonna stop talking, I'll get right into it. In this video, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my prep, I'm gonna talk about the technique to braid, and then I'm gonna give some like little summary points about like the hair and how to finish off the braid, and just like my final thoughts on kind of doing it. So I'll have time codes below if you wanna skip right into the technique. But if it's your first time ever doing a protective style or your first time trying knotless box braids, I really recommend you watching the prep part because some of those aspects really made it easier for me to do them on my own. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first things first, yesterday I literally, like, bro, y'all know I struggle so much with parting. So yesterday I just took the whole day to dedicate to parting without trying to rush myself into trying to part and braid my hair in the same day, which I'm glad I didn't because these are taking so much more time than I expected them to, and parting took me like 7 hours, but I really want to get good at it. So the first thing I did was I blew out my hair. I did a full blowout because I wanted to see if it would really make it easier, and it absolutely did. Oh my gosh, trying to part my natural hair is such a struggle, but parting when my hair is like, you know, there's no kinks in it, it's just, you know, y'all know what blow dried hair looks like. It was a lot easier. So that's the first thing. And when it actually came to braiding, it is so like all of my hair is basically like tucked under the braiding hair, and that's because my hair was so flat from being blow dried. So that is a major key. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna do a protective style again without blow drying my hair because it made parting and tucking my hair into my braiding hair so much easier. The next thing that I did when it came to parting is I actually like took the teeth out of my rat tail comb and just used this like front nub part to part my hair, because I've been seeing like stylists on like Instagram, like braiders, do that, and obviously I'm like, if braiders are doing it, it must be for a purpose. But you have a lot more control using this nub than using the rat tail, so it's a lot easier to make precise parts. And as I struggle to do usually, I use the Shine and Jam to help me make my parts more precise. So this combo, bomb, but I definitely would recommend you breaking the shit out of your comb to make your life easier. Initially, when I decided I wanted to do another protective style, I really wanted to do jumbo box braids. But then I have attempted to do jumbo knotless box braids before, but they just require so much hair, like it's ridiculous. You need like 90 packs of hair to do jumbo box braids, and just to do these, I have 32 braids in just the back section of my hair, and I've only used 3 packs, not even a full 3, like 2 3/4 really. So this is a lot of braids, but it really doesn't require that much hair. I think I used like 6 packs when I tried the jumbo ones, and it still wasn't enough. I had like 3 braids in my head, so I just didn't want to risk like putting in all the work to do the jumbo ones, when really what I want to do is like get the knotless braiding technique down. So I decided to go with smaller box braids. I'm really happy I did because they turned out so cute. Also, in my experience, if it's your first time trying to do knotless braids, the technique is way, I cannot stress this enough, way easier to do with smaller braids because the amount of hair that you're trying to feed in is smaller, and I also have just like very tiny like baby hands, so it was easier for me to manage doing smaller braids than to do like big chunky ones, and they turned out looking neat. So I don't know if that's something that you want to take into consideration, but I personally feel after trying to attempt both of them that doing smaller braids was easier, but I feel like they do take a lot more time. And the last thing that I'm gonna mention before I jump into showing you guys how I actually install these is the hair. This is like hella crinkly, so I'm gonna put that down and just show you guys the hair that's out of the package. This hair is so bomb. If you guys watch my other tutorials on the passion twist that I did and the butterfly locks, I used hair from a braid called X Trend. And I mentioned in one of those videos that I really liked that their 27 hair is not like yellow. A lot of 27 hair that I've seen, it's so warm that I'm like, I don't know whose hair that matches, but it's not mine. My natural hair color is like ashier. And if you can see, like, this is my natural hair color. And this is the color of the braiding hair, and they match like very well. It goes well with my skin tone, when generally 27 hair like doesn't match my skin tone super well. So if you're looking for an ashier blonde braiding hair, this is it. And I have been searching so long for pre-stretched blonde braiding hair, and I finally found it. I usually buy the X Trend Passion Twist on Amazon, but they didn't have them on their Amazon store. So I scoured the web for their actual, like, their own website, and I found on the X Trend website, they have the 27 braiding hair pre-stretched. So I didn't have to go through the process of like stretching the hair on my own. So that was super helpful and made the whole process more quick. So yeah, I definitely recommend this hair. Like, I can't express, and it's so easy to braid with. Like, I really love this hair, highly recommend. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about prep, let's actually get into this tutorial, which is what y'all are all here for. And I'm gonna start off by sectioning out the hair. So what I've been doing is taking my whole bundle of braiding hair, which is already pre-stretched, and I separate out about the width of the braid that I'm trying to make, if that makes sense. So like, this is the width of my braid, and I'm gonna kind of like take the amount of braiding hair that's the same width as that. I'm gonna put the rest down, and then I've been separating this big chunk into 6 different pieces, like 6 small pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm doing butt length braids, and about 6 pieces is what I've been needing to get to that length. So really with knotless braids, you're really trying to balance the thickness with the length. So the thicker the pieces of hair that you feed in, the thicker that your braid is gonna get. So you have to be really mindful of that when you're braiding. Some of the braids in the back are like, it's not super visible, but I could tell when I was braiding, I was like, whoa, that's getting really thick. I have to make sure that the small sections that I'm making are super small. All right, so first step is to put some Shine and Jam on your roots, just to get that nice and smooth. And I'm gonna do one braid showing you guys from far away, and then I'll do another braid close up so you guys can really see in detail what I'm doing. So now we're gonna part our section into 3 equal pieces, just like you would for a normal braid. And I just did the motions for doing a regular braid, but I'm gonna stop with my index finger pointing behind me. So when you're doing that, you're making sure that when you're feeding in the hair, you're feeding the hair in the back of the braid, so it won't be obvious that you've like fed hair in. If you've ever done a braid before and you add hair into it, sometimes you can see like a weird bulge, but if you make sure that your index finger is pointing behind you, like that bulge is not visible. So I hope that makes sense. So we're gonna take one of our 6 little pieces that we have, and we're gonna take it from the middle. And everything that you're doing with this, it's all in your index fingers, and I'm gonna show you. So our index finger right now is pointing towards the back. I'm gonna place the middle of my small section onto my index finger. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna help us line up one side of the braid with one piece of our hair, and another side of the braid with another piece of our hair. And then I'm gonna use my other index finger on my other hand to hold that middle of the section in place. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then I'm just gonna continue braiding like normal. And then here, my index finger comes back to the same position, and I'm gonna repeat that action. Another piece of braid, place it on top of my index finger, use the other index finger on my other hand to hold it in place, and then just braid normally. And I'm gonna repeat that until I've used all 6 of my sections. When you get down to where your natural hair ends, you can also add a little shine and jam on those little bits just so they tuck into your braid more easily. Okay, so now I've brought you in a little closer so you can see in detail what I'm doing. I already sectioned out my hair and I've got the shine and jam on my roots. So now I'm ready to braid. Like I said before, we're gonna split our section into 3 equal parts. And we're gonna start braiding like normal. When your right hand has its index finger pointing towards the back, that's when it's time to start feeding in your hair. So you're gonna take your section and place it on top of the index finger on your right hand, and use the index finger on the left hand to hold it in place, and then continue to braid normally. Once your index finger is pointing towards the back, again, on your right hand, index finger on your right hand, pointing towards the back, add in another piece of hair. Index finger pointing towards the back, place another section of hair onto your index finger, use the index finger on your left hand to hold it in place, and braid. Index finger pointing towards the back, add in another piece of hair, use the index finger on your left hand to hold it in place, and braid. So when you actually start braiding, you're gonna realize that the closer you get to the crown of your head, the harder it's going to be to get the braid to being the same length as the braids that are like closer to the nape of your neck. And that's where it's really key to figure out how to balance like the length and the width of your braid. So I'm feeding in the 6 parts for every single braid that I'm doing, right? But those 6 parts aren't going to be long enough to reach my butt when I'm at the top of my head compared to when I'm at the nape of my neck, if that makes sense. I'm trying to explain this in the way that makes the most sense. But at the same time, if you keep feeding in pieces that are all the same width, your braid is gonna turn out super thick, and you don't want that. You're trying to get your braids to be around the same width and length. So to do that, while I'm braiding parts that are closer to the top of my head, I will section out some really, really thin sections and put them to the side. So I'm gonna try to explain that with another braid. So like for example, if I was braiding this braid, I'm gonna feed in all 6 of my pieces with the same technique that I showed you. But when I get closer to like the middle of my braid, I will feed in some really thin pieces just so I can reach the length that I want, which is at my butt, without making my braid super thick. So that's the easiest way I can explain it, and I hope it makes sense. But that's how you get that extra length, with these feeding in really skinny pieces without making your braid super thick. Okay, you guys, so this is the finished look. I am so happy with how they turned out. I've always wanted to be able to do this style by myself because like the prices for doing knotless box braids are like very expensive. When I lived in LA, people were charging like $500 to do them, and I was not trying to pay that. So I'm very happy that I figured out how to do these on my own. Before I wrap this video up, I wanted to give you guys a few more details about finishing up the braids because I didn't like fully record that process, and also tell you a little bit more about this hair. So I'm actually recording the end of this video a couple of days after I finished braiding because I have super sensitive skin. I have a super sensitive scalp. So I kind of just wanted to see how my skin would react to this hair that I bought, which I've never used before. And I'm happy to say that I didn't get any irritation. I don't have any bumps on my scalp. There's no redness. And also the way that I did my braids, because I really, most of all, I dislike when I get my braids done and it's super thick. As you can see, I intentionally wanted these to be really flat, and by virtue of doing that, like the braids are really light, like it feels like I have nothing on my head, and also it makes it less heavy and causes less irritation on my scalp. So I'm happy to say that the weight of the braids is not heavy at all, and the hair itself hasn't caused me any irritation, and I didn't like soak it in apple cider vinegar or anything. I just took it straight out of the pack and braided it into my hair. So if that's an issue for you, then this hair probably won't irritate you, because I really don't know anybody who has skin more sensitive than me. But I would definitely recommend this hair, and I tested it out for a couple days and I haven't had any issues. Another thing I wanted to mention is like my little nighttime taking care of my braids routine. I put this oil on my scalp, which is the Curls Blueberry and Mint Tea Hair Growth and Scalp Treatment. This is just my favorite oil. I love to use it. I love using peppermint oil on my scalp. It helps promote growth, and I also just love like the tingly sensation. It's super soothing. So I put this on my scalp a little bit at night, and also I use this ORS olive oil foam wrap set mousse. The mousse just helps like eliminate a little bit of frizz. When I'm going to sleep, I put the mousse on, and then I wrap like the top part of my head in a satin scarf just to keep it like flat, and then I put a bonnet over everything. So I tuck all of my braids up into a bonnet just to avoid getting any frizziness. I made the mistake of like, I was braiding until the braid kind of tapered off, but I didn't braid all the way down until I couldn't braid anymore. And I went and dipped my hair for the first time, and literally my hair started unraveling. So basically, and I'll insert footage so you guys can see what I'm talking about, but I had dipped my hair and everything like unraveled up until like boob length, and the look was not it. It just looked like unfinished. It wasn't cute. It wasn't what I was going for. It just didn't look neat, and I personally just like didn't like how that looked. So the next morning I went ahead and like braided every single braid down to as far as I could go, and then I dipped, and now it still tapers off and it looks, you know, not as natural as it could look, but it doesn't look messy or unfinished. So I really want to point that out, like braid as far down as you can go and then dip. Don't try to be like, oh, I'll just let it like taper off, because then you'll end up with a mess. Okay, so I think that's gonna be it for this video. I'm really excited to put this out there, especially because like when I posted this on my Instagram, so many of you were like, I don't think I could ever braid my hair like this, but I really want to emphasize this was my first time ever trying to do this hairstyle, and I'm really hoping that the way that I explain the technique in this video is gonna make it so that you guys can go out and just do it yourselves, and you don't have to like pay somebody to do your hair. You just sit at home. It might take you 12 hours, it might take you forever, but like I guarantee you guys that you can do it. Like I literally started doing my own protective styles only a couple of months ago, and it does take practice. It's kind of tedious. My hands are really still hurting like 3 days later, but it's so worth it, and it's so like, I don't know, I just made myself super proud by like actually figuring out how to do this on my own. So I really hope that this video is helpful. And yeah, Stay tuned for my next videos. Hopefully I put another one out next week, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Okay, bye.